Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Monday, February 13th, 2023. It's about 11:37, 38 in the morning here on the East Coast of the United States. I see some of you lining up wondering, where are you, Judge? So I apologize for the little bit of the delay. Later today, we have the great Phil Giraldi, who spent his career in the CIA, knocking heads with them, telling them they shouldn't be fomenting revolutions and they shouldn't be killing people, until finally, when he told George W. Bush that Saddam Hussein had no weapons of mass destruction, Bush threw him out of the Oval Office and he quit. Phil Giraldi will be on at 3:15 Eastern today. For now, we have our hot topics, which is an interesting brew, an interesting stew, if you will, of things happening in the world of interest to you and to me. Let's start with the balloons. Joe Biden, we're entitled to transparency. What are these balloons? What are these unidentified flying objects that the government keeps shooting down? As Colonel McGregor told me, I could buy a balloon, fill it with helium, and attach a teddy bear to it and let it go up there, and the military would shoot it down. Are we shooting down our own weather balloons? Are these really spy balloons? Why would they be spy balloons when the Chinese have 300 satellites that circle the Earth, lawfully circling the Earth in a position above the Earth's atmosphere, which is a fair game for them, for us, for the Russians, for Elon Musk, for anybody that wants to put a satellite up there? Why would they risk a balloon? Why did the Secretary General Stoltenberg of NATO say the balloon was a Sino-Russian balloon? China and Russia together? Is this to build up animosity on the part of Americans against both China and Russia? Is Joe Biden trying to build up animosity on the part of Americans against China, so that when he starts a war or defends a war of China trying to take Taiwan, the American public will support it? Whatever it is, whichever one of those things it is, I don't think it's aliens, but whatever it is, the American public is entitled to know, Joe. We're entitled to know from you or some spokesperson. I don't mean to be disrespectful by calling you Joe. For years, I called you Joe when we sat next to each other on the train going from New York to D.C., you hopping on in Wilmington. So, Mr. President, we are entitled to know what's going on. What are we shooting down? Why are we shooting them down? Where are they coming from? Is this an attempt by the Chinese or the Russians to see how secure our air defenses are? Or are we overreacting and shooting down a helium balloon that is carrying a teddy bear? Okay, 73 years old. You're sitting down having lunch with your wife. You have a home in the Arizona desert. You own the home. You own the area around the home. You suddenly see a gang of people in military fatigues carrying backpacks and holding AK-47s. AK-47s, Russian semi-automatic rifles. You grab your shotgun, you go outside, you tell them to drop their weapons, you fire a couple of shots above them, and they leave. 2 hours later, you're searching your property and you see a dead body where they were. You call the Border Patrol and they come. This is what happened to a rancher in Arizona. Today, he's charged with first-degree murder with $1 million bail that he can't afford, because the government is grossly overreactive. If he fired above their heads, how could he have killed this guy? How could it be first-degree murder, which is planning, plotting, and intentional murder? What were these people doing on his property in military fatigues and with firearms? Why can't he, in a pro-gun state, a stand-your-ground state, a state where your home is your castle, like Arizona? We're not talking about New Jersey. We're talking about Arizona. Why can't he fire above the crowd as he did to defend himself? Why is he charged with a murder he couldn't possibly have committed? Because people overreact, because the government overreacts, because the government is afraid when the victim is a person from another country present here illegally. I'm not in favor of the border wall, and I'm not in favor of clamping down on people coming into into the United States when they come here for freedom and for prosperity. That's their right to come here, just like it was the right of my grandparents to come here, but they should do so legally. But that's also not a reason for the government to overreact and charge this guy with murder. Scott Kelly, speaking of Arizona, who's the brother of Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, they're twins. They're both from West Orange, New Jersey, not far from where I am now. Scott Kelly, the astronaut, said to Elon Musk, would you please re-up your Starlink internet so that the military can use it in Ukraine? And Musk said, the Ukrainians are going to lose, and I don't want a further death and destruction. So Starlink is up. It can be used for ordinary communications. It can be used for humanitarian purposes. If you're stuck in a building that's crumbling and you can't get out, you can get on your iPhone and connect to Starlink and tell the local authorities where you are and that you're alive and well. But if you are the Ukrainian military, you can't use Starlink to locate where the Russians are so you can shoot them, because Musk doesn't want to be part of the war. He just wants to be part of the humanitarian efforts. My hat is off to him. I was happy to see a picture of him and my former boss, Rupert Murdoch, at the Super Bowl yesterday. And I'm not wearing green and black by coincidence. It's because in New Jersey, we hate the Eagles. So today, a judge in Atlanta, my friends in Philadelphia, I still love you. Today, a judge in Atlanta announced, in fact, just about 15 minutes ago, that he is going to release the special grand jury report, portions of it, on efforts to corrupt the election of 2020 in the state of Georgia. This is the investigation by prosecutor Fannie Willis into efforts by Donald Trump and others to corrupt that election. Now, this is not just a fanciful or political investigation. To refresh your memory about what happened, Joe Biden won the state by 11,280 votes. Donald Trump, the sitting president at the time, called up the Secretary of State and said, you got to find me 11,280 votes so that the state will be tipped to me. Meanwhile, Trump and his lawyers, led by Rudy Giuliani, got 16 Republican electors to file documents with the Secretary of State saying that they were truly elected by the voters, not the Democratic electors who were chosen by the voters in Georgia. These 16 people signed documents that went to the federal government, which were perjurious. They were they were forged documents with acts of perjury on them, because these people were not truly elected. They are probably going to be indicted along with Giuliani and maybe Trump for orchestrating this conspiracy. In any case, the report is 400 pages long. The court announced today, over the objection of the prosecutor, who doesn't want it released until after a sitting grand jury decides to indict. The introduction to the report will be released. The conclusion of the report will be released. And the portion of the report outlining which witnesses who testified before the grand jury thinks were lying under oath, also perjury, will be released as well. Not good for the Republicans in Georgia who orchestrated this. And finally, some interesting news for Alec Baldwin. You may recall that he was charged with reckless homicide by pulling the trigger on a gun that had a round in it. We know a lot more about this than we did at the time of the charge. We know that Baldwin and the others were regularly shooting target practice with these guns as sort of a sport. So the guns that were supposed to be filled with blanks were, from time to time, filled with live rounds, and people on the set knew it. What did Baldwin know, and what should he have known? At one point, he said he pulled the trigger. Another point, he said he didn't pull the trigger. The FBI believes that he did pull the trigger, and obviously there was a live round in there, and one of the producers on his show was killed, and he was charged with homicide. He was also charged with a crime. homicide by use of a gun, which carries a minimum mandatory 5 years in jail. Except that statute wasn't enacted by the New Mexico legislature until after the killing on the set of Rust. So he can't be charged with that because that would violate the ex post facto clause of the Constitution, which expressly prohibits the government from charging you with a crime that didn't exist at the time that you allegedly did what you did, that was enacted after you did what you did. So this is a classic ex post facto case. So rather than being exposed, if convicted, to the certainty of 5 years in jail, Alec Baldwin is now exposed to the possibility, not even probability, possibility of 18 months in jail. I say possibility because the rule of thumb is for a fourth degree crime, which is what this is, murder would be first degree, an accidental killing would be fourth degree, where the defendant has no priors, and Alec Baldwin, as far as we know, has no prior felonies. The presumption on the judicial mind is that the person not go to jail. I don't know how this is going to end. I don't know if he's going to plead guilty. I don't know if they're going to cut a deal. I don't know if they're going to try this case. I don't know if he'll testify. I don't know if he testifies, they will tell the truth. All those things are not known at this point. But what is known is that this 5-year in jail charge must be dismissed because it violates the U.S. Constitution. And Baldwin will then be exposed to 18 months in jail. We'll see where it goes. Phil Giraldi coming up this afternoon on the Nord Stream pipeline. What did the CIA know and when did it know it? More as we get it. Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.